Good morning. So we got a reversal here and it's gapping up. Let's go and look at spiders first and get a read on the location for SPX since we don't get to see that pre-market. It'll be in the same place. So 455, 455-ish, 455. So it's got room to go before it hits the prior high. Most times it's going to take this out. And it doesn't mean it won't pull back. So what we want to do now is move this up to those pivot highs since it's clearing it, and a pullback from the gap up. If that happens, this is where buyers should step up and pull back into these highs here. Ah, shit. Sorry about that. I always forget these charts in the morning. Like, I'm so into looking at them myself, I forget about everybody else and why we're here. All right, so here we go. All right, so these highs here, all right, it's gapping up to about here. And so pullbacks into here, like 55, 52, 53. You know, this won't be here, obviously, since it's pre-market data. And, all right, so two things here. It could pull back into there. If it's really strong, it's not going to pull back into there. So what we need to see is like these pivots, create, have them form 2-minute chart, 5-minute chart, whatever, up here. Now, one of the things that we talked about like a week ago, right, as this started to pull back, was the possibility of either, right, it holds here, could have went down, which now says it's not supposed to go down, right? By no means it shouldn't go down. What should happen is, what would form the sell setup on the weekly, when I talked about, was it making a higher high, right? The pattern of nasty break, and it makes a higher low, higher high, and then rolls. So we'll see if that plays out. Right? Right now, the bias is it's going to go higher, tag the 50, maybe, give or take. Right? So we've got this reversal pattern that is formed. We do have that pivot high, but when a scenario like this, it usually takes out the high. We'll see, how it plays out. And the reversal having formed, it's supposed to go up now. And you say, well, it's got this void way up here. Now, one of the other things, when this broke and it began to go up, said, well, if it goes all the way up here, right, which obviously it didn't, but if it was to still get all the way up there, now we're in a trading range. And so this should hold. And as always, we see how it all plays out and how it forms. But as of today, it should continue to go up and, buying pullbacks. Now, going to SPX and looking at the premiums. Well, let me go over here for a second. Kind of idea as to why. So last year, and as we came in, coming into the beginning of the year, these bands, you see how they're sloped down on the sentiment? And that was changing. Last year, they were pointing up, right, as the market was so bullish. And now sentiment has shifted where these bands begin to adjust for the market environment, which, well, it's become more bearish, and the sentiment has become more bearish. So the bands adjust, and the static numbers are 8.80 and 0.2. So now internals got room to go up before they would become more bearish. Anyway, we'll see if breadth gets up there and if this all plays out. But getting back to SPX, that more bearishness and more put buying has still got much more premium lower than higher. So I've got 4620 written down, which I don't think we should think about going there with a buy pattern and a gap up. But there's premium down at 4465, right down here below that low, which should be a no-brainer. Bottoming, red bar, back and forth, nice gap down reversal, little gap down, and then reversal, and it's taken out the high. So we look at the pattern saying there's no way that should go down there, and that should be a no-brainer put spread. It's the best we can do, right? Is to say, what shouldn't happen, and that's what credit spreads are all about. And so, all right, looking at other markets, futures, you can see they're already on their way up. They've got room to go up to the prior high, and yeah, nice upwards bar by bar, higher bar lows pushing up, higher pivot lows, higher pivot highs on the 5-minute, consolidating. So buyers continue to step up and create support, and that's when it makes a pivot, right? That means it's created support. Right? 3 higher low bars to the left and right, pretty simple. And the pivot highs should be taken out since the trend is up and there's a void. See what happens. Qs have been weaker, pulled back, got the reversal yesterday. They're pushing up. Yeah, the 200 is there. You can see the crosshair there on the hourly chart. There's nothing lined up with the 200. And that's why we say moving averages are subjective. Well, we use them as visual aids, but we recognize that they're as subjective, maybe not so as subjective as an oscillator. It's a widely followed moving average by institutions. And as we look at it should go through it. Well, it might stall there. It should go through it. Looking at the Qs, you can see, you got to shift this up here. 200. Hey, there's a, why? Oh, it's kind of weird. And it's just the trading in that bottoming tail bar on the daily that's there. Just lining the crosshairs up. There's some congestion there. So Q's gapping up into, that bar there, that little congestion area. But you've got a nice, just like the S&Ps, it's got this nice, pivots and consolidation that it's up above 364. It should has room. It should be continue to go up. Glenn, I already went over SPX in YouTube there. 4465 has enough premium to do a spread. As wide as you want to make it. It shouldn't go down there because of the reversal bar yesterday and it's gapping up above. I just flip back to it for a second so you can see this little congestion there, and it's clearing here based on where the spiders and futures are at. So it shouldn't go back down here. All right. Now YM is right up at the prior high. Now it should take it out. So this is the least attractive as far as, continuing to go up. It does have a void, but it's already at that prior high. It hasn't stalled yet. I'm scrolling this back so you can see. It should continue to go up. That's what that pattern suggests. And it's still acting like the S&P's bullish price action. Now, this one, right? If you go back and watch the videos, what we do each morning, we can review comments. But I said this one should have the greater potential to move more because it went down, a lot further. Now, ultimately, when this rolls over, I believe that it will. Trend is down. It's going to roll back. Everything's going to roll back over again. Question is whether it goes through this low or not when it happens, which is more dependent on how far this rally goes before it rolls over. But it's up near those highs. could be, it's going to be a little tricky first thing in the morning here, with the gap up and the downtrend and all that. And when you're doing counter trend moves, this is an uptrend, of course. This is down. It's better to buy pullbacks towards support than buying breakouts. Um, you get where your stop is, where you're wrong right away. And, breakouts have a higher tendency to get sold. Yeah. I mean, 50 MA on SPX. Yeah, sure. Right. That's, part of what I've been saying for, since this initially move happened and we talked pullbacks, that this high should get taken out. And, the 50 MA there is an obvious focal point, but is really, scrolling back. So you can see, there really isn't much there, right, to the left. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it go a bit over it. You got 4,600, which the round numbers typically a sticking point because of high open interest. But this pattern, or the concept that, we say a greater than 100% retracement is where things typically stall. And it's based on prices traveling from a low to a high, and then it takes out resistance and, gets through that, and typically is where it stalls. And we'll see what the stall looks like. Meaning, does it look like this with a big red bar? Does it look like this where it's kind of just overlapping bars? And that's what we call the factory work. Bitcoin at 50 MA, 200 MA, some congestion there to the left. Just thinking back to the comments made in the morning, one of the things that I mentioned was how this has been pretty correlated to the broader market since when it topped out and the markets went down, and this started moving up and the markets didn't do anything. My thought at the time was, why aren't the markets moving up? And this was so strong, and ultimately now it's resolved itself to move with this, and Bitcoin is stalled. So these correlations, they kind of detach at times and reattach. And, just something that I noticed over the years. So oil pulling back here. And does it come back to this high? Once it takes it out, just like, looking at the markets gapping up this morning, the areas that they clear is where buyers should step up. Now, this didn't get very far after this consolidation before it began to pull back, and it's pulled back a little deep. It makes me, come to the conclusion that crude oil is getting a little tired here. And last week I pointed out, hey, look at the wide range bar, which often suggests, a stall is coming, just like a greater than 100% retracement. After prices have been moving up as they have, and you get a wide range bar, you typically get a slowing in momentum. And that's what's happened. Silver, right, lagging gold, but right, at the beginning of the week, I said this was, well, not necessarily this so much, but GLD over the weekend was the best looking setup, even though it had come down the way it did. And I was looking at GLD to show you what I was talking about. Was this rollover. And the reason this made such an impact on me, besides the bar by bar, the bottoming tail bar, and the gap down reversal, was as this was going down that day, I was short it, and it was coming down. And as it reached down here, I mean, it was kind of into this, into this gap. And I was the futures, not GLD, I was short. And it's like, it was down there at the low. And it was just like, it won't go lower. It won't go lower. And then it started to rally and made this big bottoming tail bar. And then that gap down, and a strong close, like this thing should continue to go up. And, so as a counter trend trade, this bar by bar analysis was saying buyers are going to step up. And if it could take out this, which obviously it did on the gap up, and just looking at, look, always trying to reinforce what we do here. So as this concept of gapping above and these highs being support, right, what we were just talking about with the spiders. And so you see this gapped up, and then the low of the day here, you can see right there, comes down on top of the pivot highs. So looking at spiders, right, 455, right, gapping up, maybe if it pulls back, here's the pivot highs where buyers should step up. And transports, make the turn. We don't see what pre-market here, but made the turn. So everything is suggesting that prices should go up. For now, I'm thinking take out the pivot high, and then we see, well, how far does it get above the pivot high before sellers show up again? And I think that's about it for me, guys. No, interest rates. All right. We all know the Fed's going to raise. And so, with that thought, it's like we look for confirmation. And as always, down here, if you go back and look at the old videos, we're always pointing out, Dan and I are always educating in these pre-market videos, besides just what's our bias for the day. And, back here saying, keep watching this, keep watching, is the Fed going to do anything? And this is going to tell the story when it starts going up. And of course, we saw, the 5-year was already leading on the way up. So the markets guide what's going to happen before it happens, and why we look at charts. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, we've been waiting for this turn up or down. Yesterday morning in the green room, I was actually bearish in the morning. And then I said, it's going to totally depend how we close and, move after 3 p.m. I was that clear about it. And then we had a little breakdown here. And then it went back up and went sideways. And then since it held bullish retracement at resistance, I sent out a telegram to all 3 of our letters saying, today over yesterday's high, I'm fully bullish. That's a bullish pattern now, going sideways, creating the turn. So I just didn't want to take the gap risk. I didn't think it was bullish enough to say, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's going to gap up. And, you could have, would have, should have, but I did say if anybody wanted to take some long exposure, it looked great. So we should have a ton of put spread candidates. Boeing we're already in, but I gave that as a directional. 1, 2, 3, Home Depot looks like a great put spread candidate. I actually looked at it yesterday and it was spready. I know David and others did Costco. That looks great now, gapping over these, and it was spready also, which was the only reason I didn't do it. Hey Greg, I gave a naked put on your Tilray dog yesterday, and I said we might have to buy it today over yesterday's high. And that's actually
that's your dog, man.
That's actually a nice little gap today. We shorted the $6 puts. Yeah, but George, it's a total decision based on the so I don't kick myself. I don't. I analyzed it. I made it extremely clear. And as long as I make an unbiased analysis based on currently available facts instead of stupid analysis in a hurry or ignoring something obvious or whatever, then I just deal with it. We'll get another setup. Greg, we sold puts on Facebook yesterday, the 200s. That's getting a little gap up. Looks like everything's up today. And pre-market strength is holding incredibly well. I mean, usually a big gap up, you start drifting lower into the open. All right, so all our opens are fine. So let's just go. There's a lot of earnings and things. Number of earnings here. I can't see a gap. So I don't trust it. Got to come back to it. All right, pace C is up big, 367. The gap's too big for me, but this is such a compelling gap from a bottoming pattern that I'll keep an eye on it for a couple of days and see what it does. You know, there's sometimes I watch things for 3 weeks before we get on board. APPS 47.75, that's nice. That's a gap from a bottoming pattern. VRNS alarm, that we talked about yesterday. That looks good. That looks great. Little bottoming tail continuation on increasing volume. Put that here. Apps, OMC 8650. The gap's too big, so I mean that gap's too big. So you know you can't overwhelm yourself with watch things. So you got to make a determination of which ones you want to keep and watch, or set alarms, or just hit the delete button. This says it's gapping at 3160 under this whole base. Weekly doesn't have a big price void, so I'm just going to kill you. XPO, nice gap, 69 bucks. This is kind of a W retest pattern. So this would be a great put spread candidate. And on earning stocks, big gaps, you do not rush into these things. You got to see where they open. You got to see what they do in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then we obviously got to check the spreads. Spreads are the biggest problem. All right, this is gapping up, but this is actually a condor candidate. You got major resistance there, major support here. Gapping up a little bit, $1. We'll come back to that for put spread. This says it's gapping up $5, but I don't see anything. We'll come back. FMC gapping down a little. I don't like the way it trades. CCK. I don't know where it's gapping. We'll come back. CMP, we were watching this one yesterday in the green room as a breakout. Actually, I posted it. I posted 2 or 3 of them into the close saying you could buy today's high. I thought I did this one. I'll put it in a window. Greg, your CCL had a nice move. Since today's Wednesday, starting on Monday, we noticed some of these reopening plays like jets, hotels, cruise ships, all started acting bullish. And wow, I did look for a put spread on this, but it was too spready. We should have hit the buy button on some of those things. Forex looked higher, but earnings is getting whacked. STE, no pattern. I mean, no gap. I can't tell. INSP. There's so many of these that are showing gaps, but I don't see it. All right, DOX looks great. Big old bottoming pattern. 20 MA flattened out. Gap in a 55.83. So yeah, it's a big gap, but it's not as big as some of these other ones. Like, it's visual to me. I mean, I'd prefer it to gap just over, whatever, 51 to 52. But it's worth watching. And I always like starting more with a bias of a put spread because of earnings, but we'll keep an eye on it. All these for directionals also. A Copo CTVA weekly. CTVA. You said it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 weekly. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 1, 2, 3. If it closes here, we still have 3 days to go. It is okay. So daily, it's not weekly. It's a daily 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it's we don't buy breakouts that go from the bottom of the range to the top, particularly a wide range ending bar. But these last 2 bars are showing incredible strength that it's not going down. Now it's gapping up. You know, keep an eye on it. It's strong. Voya looks good. Made the turn. Kind of an inverse head and shoulders with a lower head down here. Price void. Target 73.74. So I like that one. Put that there, Voya. UDR says it's gapping up $1.30, but I don't trust it. It's only one print. I'm going to delete you. We have enough to look at already. Made the turn. It's gapping down a little bit, but if it takes out yesterday's high, it looks good. I don't like the way it came down. That's not a clean buy setup, Thomas. But this is a bullish gap, bullish wide range bar. It is retesting support. I can't tell the gap. AGP buy, we'll come back to you. Delta asking about rent and Joby 20 BTEs. Delta 20, there should be an endless supply of put spreads today if you want to do 20 BTE. It just depends on, you know, go through your checklist. What are the spreads? What are you going to get paid? Make sure there's no earnings. And can you really do a 20 DTE on a $6 stock? There's Voya. See, Voya's popping right there. He said, job Y. Yeah, I like this one better because yesterday's bar is more of a shock bar on volume. It's more of a potent reversal than the other one. But again, can you really? I don't have time to look, but can you really sell out of the money 20 DTE on a $4 stock? Curl, I mean, there's endless put spread ideas. I've been rambling off a bunch of them here, depending on what they do in the first 30 minutes. Now, this looks like a directional. That's a big old inverse head and shoulders. That looks fantastic. So we don't trade in the first 5 minutes. ATO, I'm putting that in a window. How much room do we look? We got room on the monthly too. And this was an earnings stock. Look at how Voya got slapped down $1. See, that's why we never trade in the first 5 minutes. Well, I can't say never because there are rare exceptions. I might even buy pre-market, but 99.5% of the time, particularly on earnings stocks, you're just playing with fire if you're jumping in there within the first 5 minutes or so. All right, so ATO, I'll check puts also. All right, CMP that I liked is now gapping down, so I got no interest in that anymore. Stop last week's low. 458. All right, let's see. Yeah, look at the wire. That was one of my, well, I don't know if it was my favorite, but I said it was bullish, and now it's not. And that's exactly what we do in the first half hour, trading gaps. See, I'm not crazy about spiders. The gap's too big for me now. Right at that prior high, I would really, really, really prefer to pull back this morning. IWM, Greg, I didn't hear everything you said pre-market. I heard you say it's at a prior high, but this one has the biggest void.
That's what I said.
All right. I thought you said